Hey everyone, it's Carter, and welcome to this episode of Making It Up. So, this is a show where I sit down with other writers and we have a lovely chat and we get to know each other. And sometimes I know them, sometimes I know them well, sometimes I don't know them at all, and we get to know each other. But always fascinating, and I always learn a lot from everyone that I talk to. And today was no exception. Today I had the incomparable JT Ellison on the show. I mean, she's great. And you know, if I were going to sit here and and read her bio and list all of her accomplishments, the show would be over because it would take about 45 minutes to do that. So I will give you the highlights, but she's the New York Times and USA Today bestselling author of more than 25 novels, the Emmy award-winning co-host of the literary TV show A Word on Words. She also writes urban fantasy under the pen name Joss Walker and has millions of books in print. So yeah, she's kind of a big fucking deal. But she's very accessible, very easy to talk to. I've known her a little bit, but not real well. So it was great to have the opportunity today to sit down with her and really learn about her style. Based on how, highly functioning she is, I kind of was guessing that she was probably, a big outliner because she also has a lot of books that are part of series, but that's not true at all. And I learned that she doesn't like saying plotting versus pantsing. She prefers to call it gardener versus an architect. I think is how she put it. And she likes to garden. She likes to plant seeds and see where they sprout, but doesn't outline everything that she does. But she had tremendous things to say about her experience. She's just accomplished a lot, and she's juggling a lot of things at the same time, and that makes her happy, and that's all that matters. I love talking to her. I hope you enjoy the conversation. This is me talking to JT Ellison.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Look at those gorgeous bookshelves.
Yeah, look at your gorgeous stuff. Look at that.
I think you win. You've got more.
Well, this is one side of it. The other side's over there.
It just keeps going and going and going.
Keeps going.
Keeps going. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. How's Nashville?
Pandemic?
Yeah. Well, my son just got it.
Oh,
so
no.
I know he's 16, and I've been fortunate. I haven't gotten it. Everyone's triple boosted and whatever, but hanging out with friends on a Friday night, and 6 kids, and by Monday 3 of them had COVID. So he is in isolation, and he's fine, but it's just so over it. But and I'm in Colorado, and I'm in Boulder County, and there we've had a mask mandate since September. So it's not that everyone follows it, but and I'm very familiar with Nashville. I've been to Nashville a ton of times, and I know that's kind of hit or miss with rules and regulations depending on where you live.
I mean, they had really tight lockdowns in the first 3 months, and then they opened back up, and we've been open ever since. And people are taking care of each other. I don't know anybody who's not vaccinated.
Yeah.
Everybody's vaccinated. Everybody's, when Omicron really picked up, everybody was wearing their masks in the stores and stuff. Yep. It's just, we get such a bad rap from people that are like, oh yeah, they're a red state, they're a blue state, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, you guys just, we're all good here. I grew up in Colorado,
Yeah. Whereabouts?
Larkspur.
Oh, okay. And what was that like?
Amazing.
Yeah,
we grew up, we lived in Perry Park, which was back off 105. So right back into the mountains. Yeah. And it was fantastic. I mean, there was nothing to do but ski and golf and mess around in the rocks and hike. And it was a very idyllic upbringing.
What were your parents' roots in Colorado? Were they there for work?
My dad worked for Lockheed Martin.
Oh, okay. Right.
Whole family has worked for Lockheed Martin. My brothers both My brothers both did their whole careers there. My dad worked there for 50 some years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he started back when it was the Martin Company in Baltimore. So they
Wow.
moved him around a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
I'm
we
sure.
landed in Colorado when I was 2, and we were there till I was 15.
Oh, wow. So really your formative, your
Formative
formative
years.
years.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I've been here 25 years and it's hard to envision being anywhere else, but it's got its issues like everywhere else does, but
Sure,
I
sure.
feel very fortunate to be in Colorado because there's just so much that you can do. So we're looking forward to getting some skiing done this year. Do you still ski or are you?
Oh, I'm too expensive to put back together. I have a tendency to break things and tear things, and yeah, so
Yeah,
nope, no
that's
more skiing for me. Sucks. I would like to, but yeah, I've been vetoed on that.
so your dad's at Lockheed Martin. What's your mom doing when you're growing up?
She was a teacher. She
Mhm.
did pre-K in Littleton, um,
Okay.
and did special needs kids. Did all the testing for them, finding out, if they had any issues and everything. I used to make her give me the test once a week to make sure I hadn't slipped.
Yeah.
It was-
That's probably I wonder if that's telling about how you are now. It's like was there some kind of anxiety there? Like, I've got to make sure that I'm not broken.
Exactly. No, that's exactly what it was. It's exactly what it was. And then she got her real estate license and was a realtor while we were
Okay.
there. Yeah.
So where do you think your creative bug came from? And do you have a memory of like, oh, I remember at this age, this is what I wanted to do, and it was like not what my parents did.
Oh, I mean, forever. They were both big readers though. So that was
Mhm.
the example that I was getting the whole time I was growing up. We had bookshelves. We had, mom always had a book open. My dad always had a book. And if I could reach it on the shelf, I was allowed to read it.
Do you
And I
remember
was
what they were
really
reading?
tall.
Like, what were they what were they into? Do you remember like what kind
Oh
of
yeah,
book?
I mean, science fiction, crime fiction. My dad's a big sci-fi guy,
Oh,
big.
okay.
Even still, I'm constantly watching the new sci-fi books to make sure, he likes the space stuff. He doesn't, obviously with Lucky Martin, he likes the space stuff.
Yeah, right.
Uh, so I'm always on the lookout for really great sci-fi authors to send his way. And
That's
um,
awesome.
mom loves mysteries and thrillers, and there was a lot of romance and poetry and pretty much everything, literary fiction. I read The Thornbirds and the Roots the same year when
Wow.
I think I was 10,
Yeah.
8 or 10. Yeah, I was
Wow.
little
That's
and
very
reading.
70s.
Yes, very, 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 very,
Wow,
very precocious
that's
reader.
intense. I wasn't like that at all. I mean, I didn't really get into reading until my 20s when I was living alone in San
So,
Francisco. It just had zero interest to me. And my college education didn't necessitate any English courses or any reading outside of, business books and things like that. So yeah, so you're different than me. So you're a voracious reader, but that's not
and
what you went
and
to.
and I wrote little poems. I wrote little short stories. I have in my files, in my precious memory files over there, I have this little bound book called The Samaritan Part 2,
Huh.
because even then, when I was 7, I knew in media res was very important.
Right,
I don't know
right,
what happened to part 1, but part 2,
right, right.
and it's an astronaut. It was, Major Tom was a huge inspiration. My brothers
Sure.
were not readers, but they were music people, and Bowie was a favorite of
Of
all of
course.
ours.
Yeah.
And yeah, I marooned a guy in space. I basically wrote The Martian when I was 7.
Oh man.
Yeah,
If you had published that early,
I
you would
know
have hit
that
the ground
3
running.
pages of, and his name was Max. His name was
Ah.
Max. I remember that because my brother's best friend's name was Max, and I think I had a crush on him. So,
Oh, because
but yeah,
I
I
think
was
of the
writing when I was
Disney
little.
movie. Do you remember the Black Hole, the Disney movie, and the robot was Maximilian, and he was
Mm.
evil. So there was a little sci-fi tie there. So you're writing stories and stuff, but that's not what you went to college for, right? For writing.
Actually, well, I started in international relations, and I didn't do so well my freshman year. I was away from home for the first time, and I kind
Sure.
of got a bug up my nose about my independence and didn't go to class very much. And yeah, I
Where
ended up
did you go to school?
freshman year. I went to Stetson in
Okay.
Florida,
Mhm.
which was miserable. I hated it. I hated it literally from the first day. It just was not a match. It was weird.
Yeah.
Something looks so great on paper, and then you
Yeah.
get there and it's like, this is not my jam
Yeah.
at all. And so I ended up transferring to a women's college in Virginia called Randolph-Macon Women's College. Um,
So you
which
felt it was more like the college itself, not necessarily what you were studying. It's just the
Yeah,
whole
and I,
whole
and
vibe
I was
just
a
wasn't right.
yeah, so there I was poli-sci, but I also was taking a lot of economic courses
Hmm.
and creative writing.
Oh,
So
okay.
ended up having a dual major, double major, and now they allow triple majors. I would have had a triple major with politics, economics, and literature. So yeah, it was awesome. But I did think I was going to be a writer, and I did plan to get an MFA. And my thesis advisor, after I turned in my thesis and everything, she said, "You're not good enough to get published."
Oh,
I was like,
interesting.
"Oh, okay,
And
great."
that quote is now framed on your wall where?
I listened. I quit writing, and I went
Oh,
and
Jesus.
I went to graduate school at George Washington in their political management program. And so I went the politics route because she was very clear that, I just didn't have that spark.
Huh.
And, so I quit writing, and I went this whole other route, and I was not happy. And
Yeah. What were your aspirations going into,
the
politics?
politics,
Yeah.
to run campaigns.
Yeah.
I wanted to be behind the scenes, and
Yeah.
they kept trying to put me in the front and put me on camera and all of that. And it was bad. Very, very shy. It doesn't sound like it, but you sort of grow a little bit as an adult, but I'm very shy and very introverted.
Hmm.
And, they put me on camera the first time and the lights came on, and I was just like,
I don't think so.
it was bad. I mean, I had a meltdown and a panic attack, and it was
Oh
awful.
boy.
So I was not,
It really wasn't your calling then.
no, that was not it. So it was good, behind the scenes. I was really good at opposition research, which is basically the, private eyes of
Yeah.
politics.
Right. Right.
Really good at that. And, that's that path it just wasn't working. I got into polling, and I was a pollster for a little while. And that too was not my bag. So I went to work for Lockheed Martin. I left politics and went to the aerospace and did finance for them for a while.
Wow.
Then moved into marketing and, all of this. And meanwhile, my poor little creative voice is like, please do something. Please write. Please write. And then my husband decided to move us to Nashville, and I couldn't find a job. And so I had to try something. And I told him I wanted to write a book, and he said, do it.
Yeah. That's
And,
great.
the rest is history.
How difficult was it writing that first book?
It was challenging because I wasn't a good enough writer to get published.
Right.
She had just said, you're just not good enough right now. That would have been a very different thing. But, so you go into a challenge like that going, wow, the one person that I really respected told me I wasn't good enough to do it. So, okay, I'm going to try this. But, that first paragraph, when I hit the period at the end of the first paragraph, I just started to cry because I was back. Back, right?
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, this is it. And it took, I made every rookie mistake possible to make.
Sure.
Calling up authors at home, thinking they were going to give me their agents.
Oh.
Right? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Not even asking for advice, asking for their.
Oh no,
agents.
asking for advice, and I had already
so
done
obnoxious.
all the things. Oh, it was so obnoxious. So incredibly bad. I've apologized since, and he was like, I don't even remember that. I'm like, yeah okay, good. I remember it, but
right.
I sent what I thought was a novel to every editor in New York
Oh boy.
that I found in Writer's Digest,
Right. Unagented.
presented.
Yeah.
I sent a 40,000 word novella to Neil Myron. John Sanford's my favorite author here. Yeah, it was really, kind of amusing because I came up before there were, really these big, awesome organizations. I didn't know about mystery writers. I stumbled into Sisters in Crime, and that's where I realized all the mistakes I was making. I was like, oh my God. So I did. I made every stupid mistake in the book. And then I realized what I was doing wrong. And I elevated my craft and I learned how to put a real book together, and I tried again. And that is the book that got me my agent. So,
okay. And it's funny because the learning process is different for everybody, but I'm the same way. So I didn't know what so I found my first book was the easiest to write because I had no idea what the hell I was doing. So I wrote it in like 90 days, which I've never written that fast before, but it was terrible. But you learn, and obviously the advent of the internet really helps with understanding how do I query an agent. But I'm always astounded how many people will still reach out to authors today and ask these questions. I'm like, it's literally so much information on the internet, like so much more than I could ever tell you.
Yeah.
So, but it is crazy. So when you say you learn how to write the book, do you strike me as somebody who's highly functional and highly organized. Do you plot it all out? Do you think it all through, or how much you just freewheel it?
No, I freewheel it.
Oh.
I'm definitely I like the architect and the gardener better than the plotter and the planter and the panther, because I'm kind of a planter. I always have kind of seeds, right?
Yeah,
I know the seeds, and I just let them sit until they start growing in my head and I start seeing people and scenes. I'm really, really visual. So this all starts happening. I see people, I see conversations, I hear snippets of dialogue, and I start writing those down. And then I start going, oh, well, maybe this is what the book's about. And I'll usually toss off, several pages just to kind of get a voice and get a sense and all of that. Then I do something, and this is recent, usually I never have outlined, but recently I've started doing something called 40 scenes that really plays into kind of what I was already doing, right? This mental imagery of the story. So I'll write down those 40 scenes that I'm hearing and seeing and feeling. And then you can kind of get an idea of what a story is about.
That's kind of overwhelming though, to think of 40 scenes, because I'm the same way. It's not.
It's not, but it's not scenes. So this is my version of writer math, right? So it doesn't have to be more than Olivia was walking down the beach. That's a scene. Olivia and Park have a fight. That's a scene. So it doesn't have to be like fleshed out in any way, shape, or form. It can just be, walk up the mountain, whatever. It can be bigger than that, but it doesn't have to be. You put 40 of those together and you assume a scene's 2,000 words. That's 80,000 words of your novel right there that you've already got. It's not necessarily an outline, but there's 80,000 words to be mined out of that.
Yeah. And you're not going to keep all of them, obviously, because some scenes aren't going to work once you get into it. Sure. And you'll think of other ones. That's it. Because, we're similar. I'm very visual, and I have no idea what the plot is about, but I know the mood of this book is going to be whatever, grim or dark or uplifting. And it's funny, I'm starting something right now, and I'm almost like not letting myself write for like a month. Just like I sit down and I just think, and maybe I'm putting scenes together, whatever, but
you are totally doing it. You just don't realize you're doing it.
Maybe that, but it's killing me because then I started writing the first chapter because I just wanted to so badly. I'm like, no, you can't do that. But I'm like, God, this first chapter is going to be great, but might just, let it percolate for a little while. So why did you, when you talk about your 40 scenes, having written as much as you have already, did you feel like there was a need to maybe look at other avenues about how to structure a book, or was it just interesting to you?
it's interesting to me. I call it other people's process, right?
Yeah.
OPP, because I hear of things and I'm like, ooh, that sounds like a really cool thing to try, and I try it. I mean, I probably would do better if I would just stick with the program, but I've never really been good at sticking with the program. I've always, the shiny new object syndrome. I love to try new things. I mean, we sit alone in our rooms. We're so in our heads all the time.
Mhm.
I think it makes us better writers to step out of that and challenge ourselves in different ways. And it elevates the books. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I've had these experiments fail magnificently.
Yeah.
you know?
And it's also about your, finding joy as an author, right? Like
Yeah, for sure.
if you sit down and you're thinking, here's the the snowflake system that I'm going to follow for this book, and I know it's going to work. And if you're miserable doing it, like, what's the point? And I know there's a lot of things that I do that make me happy that I'm like, oh, the editor's not going to like this, but
Sure.
it makes me happy, and it's a little weird and it's a little bit different, and maybe I'll change it. But right now, this is what brings me joy. So I think so it sounds like you find that happiness through experimentation almost.
Yeah. Yeah. And I write a bunch of different genres. I have not done, you look at the massively successful authors in our field, and what are they doing? They're writing the same book. It's a series. There's 19, 20 books in the series, and they're hugely successful because their readers know what they're going to get. So there's
Right.
something to be said for doing that. And
Right.
and I rebelled against that from the very, very beginning. It was like, I don't want to write the same book every time. And that's what has ended up happening. I certainly, you can pick up one of my books and know it's me because of the voice, but you're not necessarily going to get the same thing.
Right.
Some of them are crime fiction, some are thrillers, some are romantic suspense, some are horror. I kind of cross the gamut. Now I'm writing fantasy. Now I'm writing urban fantasy as well. So it's
But do you sit down, and when you're starting the book, I mean, sure, when you have something as specific as fantasy, but like, say, mystery versus thriller, this is going to be a thriller, or like, this is the story that's interesting to me. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is. It's
Yeah.
the characters. I mean, every story starts with the character. Until I have a handle on the character, like the one that I'm working on a proposal right now, and I knew what was going to happen. And then I started working on this character, and I fell in love with her and her name, and realized I can't have her do what I want her to do. I can't. She can't die. She was going to die, and I'm like, I can't kill her. So I have to rethink the entire story to accommodate the fact that I don't want to kill the character.
Huh.
So, they come to life in a way. And I don't know if you're a fandom fan of anything, but like the Diana Gabaldon books, the Outlander books,
Yep.
I've been reading them, since the 90s. I'm a huge fan. Jamie and Claire are as real to me as my next door neighbors.
Right.
Right. They exist in my brain in such a tangible way. And that's what I try to do with my characters. I want them to exist.
It's a lot of pressure on the author, though, right? When you have
Sure.
somebody who's so in love with your characters, I mean, then it becomes a potential misery situation. Why did you kill them off?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, it is very, but you can't write anything with the reader in mind. You can't.
No, totally.
You end up censoring yourself, and that everything just kind of falls to pieces.
And you get different. So when I ever ask people that question, who do you write for? A lot of times people will say, I write for my audience. And I can't even imagine that. Like, because again, that goes back to the joy thing. It's like, I'm writing for myself because this is something I would want to read, or something I would want to see on TV, and hopefully other people will like it. But I agree. You can, I mean, once in a while I'll get, I'll have a sense of like, oh, I know it's usually my agent or my editor. I'm like, I know this isn't going to make them happy. I'll have that in my head, but that's about
that's
it.
the professional part of being a
Right,
writer.
right. Because you know you're going to have to go change it later. So you have
Yeah,
that.
you know what the market will bear. You know what the
Right.
people around you want. You know, I was talking to my agent the other day about this new story, and she was like, but where's the mystery? Where's the thriller? Where, you know, this doesn't. I'm like, well, she dies. And she was like, oh, okay. So did somebody kill her? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, I said, I thought that was like, you know, like you knew that. Like that was, of course, I'm a crime fiction writer. Somebody died. Somebody's been murdered. You know, that's just part of it.
Right. And
but that was when I realized, oh my God, I don't want to kill her. And I just literally subconsciously hadn't even said that she had been murdered because I don't want to murder her. That was really, it was funny. It was funny. Work in progress.
I think the other thing that drives me nuts a little bit is in terms of, you know, defining genres and types of fiction is the whole idea as, you know, thriller writers, you know, thriller versus mystery. And, you know, when I write a book, I don't really care about solving anything, you know, sure. And there's maybe mysterious things happening, but to me, it's just like, here's this weird shit that happened. And then when people read it as a mystery, like, well, it didn't get resolved. I'm like, well, to me, it's not a mystery. It's just this is what happened in this person's life over 2 weeks. And to me, that's interesting. And maybe that's a fault of mine, but I'd much rather be a suspense slash thriller writer than you know, a mystery writer per se.
It's interesting. My observation of the readership, the really voracious crime fiction readers now they weren't brought up on the serial killer novel, right? The serial killer thriller that you knew who the killer was.
Right.
They have been brought up on the suspense novel where there is an element of mystery to it. There's a big kitchen sink twist somewhere in there. And so that's what they pick up a mystery novel and they assume that that's what they're getting. And when you give them a thriller, right? So Her Dark Lies is a really good example of this. I'm not trying to hide who is behind this. I mean, the whole premise of the story is what if Rebecca hadn't died? Right. An homage to the Du Maurier story. And I'm not trying to hide that this person is doing what they're doing.
Right.
And man, I got taken apart. I knew who did it from the first page. I'm like, I
told you on the first page.
I told you. That's why you know. I wasn't trying, but so you know, this is where the writing to market kind of thing, it's the market has changed. The readership has changed. What they're looking for from our books has changed. And so you have to have a little bit in the back of your mind of, you know, I don't know if you've read or seen Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough.
I haven't. Yeah.
Just watch it. It's 6 episodes. It's really well done. Really well done. Bono's daughter is Adele, which is also blows my mind. And she's just a really great actress. But that is one of those suspense novels that has a twist.
Yeah.
And it's just a really classic example of it. That, you know, is the readership going to change? I hope so, because I like writing thrillers. I like to have all the chess players on the board and be moving them around and have the reader know more about what's happening than the characters, which is what I think a thriller is. The reader knows more than the characters.
Yeah, that's very Hitchcockian, right?
We're all finding it out at the same time.
Right. And it also allows you, I think, as a thriller writer to have a little bit more time to explore character and tone rather, because when you start getting emails saying like, oh, or reviews of like, you know, I kept guessing it was this person. I'm like, don't worry about it. just absorb. I just want you to absorb the book and not be worrying about, it's not a whodunit. But I think you're right. I think that's embedded in a lot of readers like disposition, and they're, you know, and then you have the pressure of like, what twist can I have that's so crazy, but somehow still believable. And it's never both. It's never both perfectly. You know, that's a really hard thing to pull off, especially when you're not even like, since I'm not outlining, like the twist doesn't occur to me until that day that I'm writing it. And it might
Yeah,
be
for me, most of the time too, it's like, oh,
and it might be,
cool.
I will kill this person now. Like what, what would that look like if I did that? And I might not keep it, but that challenge is fantastic because then, you do something dramatic, kill off a major character, and it changes everything. I write standalone, so I can, I don't have to worry too much about losing people along the way. Now, and you didn't really start doing standalones until relatively recently, right?
Right, right.
What was that
Yeah,
experience like? Was that very freeing in a way?
I hated it because the series, I thought at the time, I thought the series is easier, right? The world's built. You're
Yeah.
just inserting the characters into a different situation, but the world's built. The standalone, you have to literally start from scratch. You have to
Mhm.
build the world and put the characters in the situation. So it takes more effort and more time. But I love them both equally, but I really do like the standalones a lot.
Yeah.
Um, because now I see the freedom in creating that world.
Well, then that's the fun of it, right? Is like, and
Mhm.
I love to like write about places that I don't know because I'm like, I am going to, or make places up, and I'm going to discover this place. And that's exciting for me. Every novel's in a different location, and
Yeah.
it is a lot of work, but then it is, you know, it's like watching different limited series all the time. Like, oh, this is a whole new thing, and it's not just the next season of whatever.
Right.
So I
But
think
then
it's
it's
pretty exciting.
over. But then when it's over,
Yeah,
right? And you've fallen in love with these characters, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, please tell me you're bringing them back." And it's like, no, it was a standalone. It's over.
yeah, yeah.
The
I
story's
mean,
done.
you can have a greater world where there's a little bit of crossover or
Right.
whatever, but
Your film agent will tell you not to do that, though.
yes,
Film agent
yeah,
doesn't like when you do that because then if they buy that book, then they technically have the rights to the world that it crossed over into, and
yep,
it
yep.
creates problems in the contracts. So I've learned.
Yeah. Well, there are worse problems to have in life.
I think so too. I actually, I actually have. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Easter egg. I think it's so fun for the readers that follow all the books
Right.
to get those little Easter eggs of, oh my
Right.
God, I know what she's talking about. That little aside about OHB designs. Oh, I know what that is.
Right.
I just think that's really fun for the reader. And yeah,
I
my
think so
film's
too.
really
Yeah.
mad at me to do it.
And you can do Easter eggs that don't even have crossovers to other books. So for example, like in my book, Mr. Tinder's Girl, this woman finds out, the protagonist, that she's being watched, and that in fact there's a whole website dedicated to a fan base that's watching her. And I threw out the URL just in the text, but I'm like, if you actually go there, and I didn't say this, but if you go there, I built that world. So there was pictures of her, there was people on chat message boards and stuff like that. And for the very few people who found that, it freaked them out. And I'm like, I love that stuff. It took so much work, but I'm like, for the 10 of you who discovered that,
One of you, I did the exact same thing in Her Dark Lies. The
oh,
sister is a social influencer and has
oh,
this amazing Instagram where she travels all over the world and everything. Her name's Harper Hunter, and the Instagram is called Harper Hunt's Life. And so I made that Instagram so that anybody goes to Instagram and goes to
that's
Harper
great.
Hunt's Life, gets all of the visuals that she's talking about in the book and all the places that she's visited and everything. And it was so fun. And I really thought that, hey, cool thing for the publisher to play with. No, nobody cares about those fun things. Just
Huh.
done.
Yeah. And it's a lot of work. And that's
Mhm.
another thing I wanted to ask you about, because I'm, looking at your bio. I get halfway through your bio and I'm exhausted. I got to go take a nap at this point. I'm like, how the hell does she get all this shit done? I don't get it. Like, so, obviously you're very high functioning, but so for example, that Instagram account, is that you like doing all that legwork on that, or you're having help?
On my Instagram?
Yeah. Like you're the Instagram account for Harper. Like when you do something
Oh,
like
yeah, I
that,
did.
that's just
Yeah.
all you.
Oh, it's
So,
a great procrastination tool. Are you kidding me?
oh, that's a good point.
Oh yeah. No, it's totally, I don't know what to do. Let's go put a picture on Harper's Instagram. Yeah, no, I do that. Um, I have a love-hate with social media. I always
Yeah.
have. I love the social part of it. I hate the marketing part of it, that we
Yeah.
have to use it to sell our books. I
Right.
despise that. I find it distasteful. And yet I am the first one who's putting up a post when one of my books goes on sale. So, whatever.
Well, yeah, there's a balance to it, right? You
My
don't
own
have to.
hypocrisy there.
Well, I don't think that's. I mean, sure, and that probably stems a little bit from the fact that you're self-proclaimed introvert,
Yeah.
and as many writers are, and the idea of promoting oneself is it's blood curdling for most writers. And so I'll look at social media. I'm like, okay, if I post about this once a week, who cares? Like posting when it goes live, great, but I think you're not giving your audience enough credit for. There's a lot of people who are really interested in hearing from you and those posts, but it's just against your nature.
It is. So I struggle with it, but I'm also, the things that I find are really successful is just the ones that are not planned. Cause I use a program called Planoly, so we can make a really pretty grid and we know what's going up. And I have an assistant who helps with all of that. And I'll send the pictures and I'll caption the pictures, and then she'll do all the tags and, all of that back end stuff to make sure that, credit goes where credit is due and everything. And, that now goes to Facebook. Everything's kind of integrated to be automated. Automation is your friend with this kind of stuff. If you're trying to chase down posting links to every single thing, you'll go mad.
Yeah.
But I have found that the unplanned social media is generally the stuff that's fun and that people respond to. This stupid little cooking thing that I've been doing just really lights up, right? It's like, hey, here are the ingredients. You put them in the pot and, then you do X and you do Y and you do Z, and then you have dinner. And here's a picture of dinner, and it was just really, I get more responses out of that and pictures of the cats doing dumb stuff.
Right. Because you're letting them into your personal space and your world a little bit. And people love that. I mean, most of my posts are about my dumb cat. Because, God forbid I post a picture of myself. I'd never do that. I'm like, oh God, that's terrible. I did post a picture.
The reason I post pictures of myself, you're going to laugh. People still think I'm a man. I still get at least once a month, twice a month, a fan letter to Mr. Ellison, invitations to events to Mr. Ellison. It's like, wow. I mean, seriously, if you're inviting me to an event and you haven't at least looked at my website.
Right. Can you be our keynote speaker, Mr. Ellison?
Yeah. No, I can't. Thank you so much for that invitation, that kind invitation.
Wow.
By the way, I'm a woman.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking. So literally that is why I ever put that up there. So people will be like, hello, quit calling me Mr.
That's funny.
Mr.
So what's the next thing coming out for you?
I have 4 projects in the works right now.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. My next standalone comes out in February of 23. The title is not 100% approved, but I think it's going to stick, which is Never Darling. So it's a very kind of high concept suspense novel, and I'm really excited. I get the notes on that on Monday. I am writing a Taylor Jackson novel from the Taylor Jackson series. I am 3/4 of the way through that, and I was supposed to be done in December, and I didn't finish, but I'm doing it myself, or whatever. I'm not on a deadline for it, so it's spec. The fantasy series that I started under the Joss Walker pen name, that book is coming. I'm co-writing it with a friend, R.L. Perez. And she is turning in the second draft of that like February 15th. So like next week. And I'm doing the proposal for the next standalone. So yeah. So hopefully the Taylor book and the Joss Walker is definitely going to be out in the summer. And I'm hoping the Taylor book will be in the spring if I get it finished in time.
Yeah.
And then the standalones, it's just, you see the invisible balls I'm juggling?
But I think you like that. I think you thrive on that.
Like season 7 of A Word on Words started.
It's awesome.
Yep. We have
You wouldn't
our,
know what to do with yourself if you didn't have all those things going on, is my guess.
oh, and then I complain about having too much to do. But what I've done recently is pull back on the external in order to focus on filling the pipeline. I used to
Yeah.
have a pipeline of books, and
Yeah.
then I could take a few months and goof off and do whatever. And my pipeline's empty. So I'm trying to fill the pipeline this year.
And how did you, was it, was it nice a little bit during the pandemic, not having to do in-person events? Like, do you really
Oh,
enjoy
for
doing
me,
that?
for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. It was
Yeah.
much less stressful,
Yeah.
much less. But I did, I think 70 some events last year, which
Oh,
was
wow. Wow.
way too much.
Are you,
Half were for me and half were for other people and other events and stuff. It was crazy.
and they were all online.
All online.
Yeah.
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 Because
That's exhausting.
I think everybody just kind of jumped in feet first of, okay, we're going to do this. And wow, I think everybody burned out. I don't know if you burned out on it, but I sure did. It's like,
Yeah. Well, and then
I
you
was
get
kind of
to,
excited, like, oh my God, I'm going to get up and take a shower and put on clothes and do my hair. I haven't done that in a while. I'm gonna make my
yeah.
husband take me to dinner because I did my hair today. Last year it was like my hair was falling out because I was doing it so much. It's just kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. I think we've all found that happy medium of, okay, we don't have to be out there every single day doing something.
No. And for the natural introvert, it's a little bit, that probably never gets totally 100%. I love this kind of a situation, being around a bunch of people who are focused solely on you. That's got to be a little bit stressful.
Yes, but I like the Zooms. I mean, I
Yeah.
did being able to, toss on a shirt and put on some lipstick and sit in my office and, there's a cat there and cup of tea and, I'm just totally like relaxed. I'm leaning back in my chair. It's
Yeah.
that the advantage for introverts for that. It's huge.
Yeah.
And the other wonderful part of it is being able to connect with people that we would never be able to connect with. And
Totally.
go to friends' book events that
Right.
we never would be able to see them on tour and
Right.
everything. So there's been a really big upside, and I hope it doesn't all go away. I think
I don't think it will.
going forward.
Yeah. I mean, so my launch coming up, we're going to do one local event and then one online event. I think it'll be a balance going forward, like, because
Yeah.
to your point, you can have online events where multiple indies get involved in it and you're getting viewers from all over the world, the country, whatever. So it's hard to see why that would just go by the wayside.
It's so funny because I used to always do a Facebook Live for my launch event. Right. Just, the second that was available to us to do, I was trying to do it so that other people could participate, even though, they weren't here in Nashville. So it is interesting how, a disruption creates a completely new form of
Totally.
media.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, we're going to wrap up. Before we do, we're going to do a little storytelling. This is the fun part. This is the
we'll see how I've been mainlining tea, as you noticed, so that I can actually be a little bit creative.
Well, and if it's a shit show, that's totally fine too. So
yeah, no, that's probably even better.
There's zero pressure.
Do we have a genre that we're working in here?
We can do whatever we want.
Any kind of guidance?
There's zero guidance.
Oh, zero forward guidance.
The guidance is that it's basically improv. So we yes and each other. So I'll read a sentence to start, and then you give me a couple sentences of what happens next, and then I do it, and we just see where it goes. And just after a couple minutes, I'll call it a day. But it's cool because sometimes you kind of channel each other, and you didn't expect that, or your energy is unexpected, and it goes somewhere. You're like, oh, I can.
Good.
And we're both very visual, so I can see us both, seeing the same scene. So I have 3 books for you to choose one from. I just grabbed these off my shelf. Rainfall from Barry Eisler. So I just read this. This is coming out in July.
Drown Our Daughters. What a great title.
Is that the greatest? That's why I agreed to blurb it. I'm like, I will totally read that book. I just love that title. And Dean Koontz, The Taking. So
Let's
choose.
do the cool title. Let's do it from the
Okay.
Drown Our Daughters.
They
That
drown
looks
our
really
daughters.
pretty.
So give me a page between 1 and 360.
67.
67. Okay. And then a sentence between 1 and 5.
4.
Okay.
Not a good pick, huh?
No, it's not bad, but I'm going to
say we can start over. No problem.
So just know that she's in the ocean, like up to her knees. Wave after wave pushed back precious inches, pushed her back precious inches. Wave after wave pushed her back precious inches. That's a tongue twister.
Then the fin of the shark began to circle.
It was getting late, and the sun was just about to stop reflecting off the top of the ocean. And she wasn't sure if her eyes were playing tricks on her or not. Was that actually a fin? She turned and started to go back to the shore.
And then she panicked because she was convinced it was. She runs as quickly as she can, water spraying around her ankles. And the man on the beach who watches her run stops and calls, "Do you need help?"
She tried to scream yes, but a wave caught her from behind, knocking her down. And the pull on it was as if somebody had grabbed her by the ankles to bring her back out to sea. She came back above the surface, gasping for air, disoriented, not seeing the man, not seeing the shark. But seconds later, she saw something.
Hand reaching for hers, yanking, hurting her shoulder so badly she cried out. And the next thing she knew, she was on the beach, on her back, with a stranger's face looming over hers, a stranger's face that became familiar the closer it got.
She turned to her side and spit out some ocean water, the salt burning her tongue. And then when she looked back up, she squinted. And even in the looming darkness, it was undeniable it was him. But it couldn't be, because he had died 3 years ago.
He was torn between joy and panic, fear at what it could mean. She must have died. She must be dead. There's no way that he could be there.
I think we'll call it there. That's a great ending to it. See,
Dun, dun, dun.
now we have to write a book together.
That was pretty cool.
It's fun, like isn't it?
Yeah, it's very fun.
Yeah, it's nice to be forced to accept whatever premise somebody gives you.
Right.
Because as writers, a lot of times you're almost thinking ahead and you're like, oh, what I had thought I can't do now because they said this. But that's exciting because that opens up a world of possibilities too. So it's fun. And as it gets longer, it gets exhausting, but it's
like, oh my God. Okay. So now she's on the beach and doing this dude.
And it's always interesting to see how people like react to it. Cause some people are like, I don't want to do this. This scares me. And other people are like, yeah, I'm all in. Let's just figure it out.
You know, I think you and I talked on a panel recently about how you can give 10 authors the same exact premise and they will give you 10 very different stories. So right. it is fun to mesh those very different visions into something. That's pretty
well.
Cool.
And you collaborate with a lot of people, a lot of different people.
Yeah,
so that's got to be a challenging process every time as well. It's like getting to know their space and the way that they think, and then making sure that meshes with the collective vision for whatever it is that you're writing. So that's got to be a little bit challenging, I would think.
It is. But you have to, what's interesting is you actually really have to work with somebody who has the same personality type.
Oh, interesting.
Like if you have an alpha and a beta together, that won't work.
Yeah.
Because it's right. you need somebody who will challenge you back when you say, I think we should do X. And if they really genuinely are like, then you have to listen, and then you go, oh, wow, you're right.
Right.
That's better. So you can really elevate a story with two minds working on it, but you really do have to have, the same kind of personality, I think, because wow, I can't even imagine, it's like, okay, I'm a teensy bit alpha. I can't imagine be like, all right, where are your pages? Oh, yeah.
Oh no, that would that would drive me.
I
That would
would
drive me.
lose my ever loving mind.
Right.
You
Right.
have to have somebody who's as passionate and excited about a project as you are.
And that's kind of what an editor is too, right? Like, when
Sure.
you get your notes on Monday, you're like, okay, this is elevating my book because there's a second very professional mind looking at this and giving me
Right.
feedback that it's going to be a pain in the ass to make all these changes, but it totally makes the story better. So
I love being edited. I
yeah,
love being edited because yeah, I may disagree and I may discard the note, but it always, anytime you've got somebody else looking at your story, you're so deep in the weeds, right? I mean, there's just you can't even see what the story is. By the time I'm giving something to someone to read, I don't even know, does it work? Are the themes? I
right,
don't know any of that stuff.
right,
And
right.
they come in, they're like, oh my God, this works or this is terrible. And, suddenly a new path opens. And that's, I've had a lot of editors over the years and probably 10 actually off the top of my head of professional editors, and every single one of them has brought something that
Yeah,
made the book stronger.
totally. Yeah,
So
because like you said, you've lost all context for it. And usually at the end of the book, I always like the very last thing that I write. I always love my ending, whatever it is, but I always step away from the book like, that book is garbage. Like I always feel like that. I'm like, I just don't think it works. I don't know. Is it boring? Is it stupid? I like that last scene, but that's about it. And you just need that time away from it. And then that objective feedback to kind of dive back in and appreciate the good parts and the bad parts.
sure, because the stuff that the stuff that you think is phenomenal, that they're just like, yeah, no, and it's
Right.
like,
That goes on a little bit long, don't you think?
yeah, that murder that darling, yeah. And I know which ones they're going to do it. So I end up taking them out myself because I always know when they're going to be like, yeah, no, that's getting a
Yeah.
little verbose. But
Yeah.
yeah. When's your next book coming out?
April.
April.
So
What is
yeah,
it? You mentioned
the new
earlier
neighbor.
the new neighbor.
Yeah. And this is actually a case where I've world built a little bit with my last book. I established this house, and this book is the same house in a completely separate set of characters. But
Okay.
it's the same house, and there's a little bit of crossover between the two. So it'll be interesting to see the feedback on that. But they both are supposed to work as standalone novels. So we'll see how it goes.
Oh, I love it. That's
So
very cool. Very,
I,
very cool.
I appreciate your time today, JT. And it was
Hey,
great
this is
seeing
really
you.
fun.
And
Thank you for having me.
of course, maybe I'll see you at Thriller Fest or BoucherCon, or we'll see.
Next year. I'm taking the year off. I'm
Oh,
filling
good
the
for you.
pipeline this year. Yeah.
Good for you.
Since I don't have a book till February
Yeah.
23, I decided, all right, I'm gonna take this summer and just really get some books in the pipeline.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your continued success.
And to you, great to
Thanks.
see you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye, JT. That was my conversation with JT Ellison. Wasn't she great? That was really enjoyable, and I love the story that we came up with together. Her latest book is Her Dark Lies. If you want to find out more about JT, just go to jtellison.com. If you want to find out more about me or subscribe to my newsletter, just go to carterwilson.com. Hope you enjoyed that. More episodes of Making It Up coming out soon. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Take care.